ChatAE helps enterprise sellers break into their top accounts, better prepare for their meetings, and overall increase the effectiveness of enterprise sales teams across the board. And so today, what we'll go through is a quick example for how we do that. Within ChatAE, we'll get a whole bunch of information on our top accounts that is completely tailored, customized to what is most relevant to me and what I sell, that includes the combination of relevancy of research and timeliness of alerts to ultimately craft the most valuable, value-based touch points within my accounts. At a product level, there's three components to ChatAE. One is the research agent, which goes across a variety of external sources, including sources that are difficult to get at for common tools like LLMs, from sources like LinkedIn, social media, etc., and many more. That information at the research agent level can be enriched by swaths of internal data. And so this can include things like call transcript, deal notes, company context, my calendar, as well as my sales playbooks and sales methodologies to most tailor what is most relevant in that research to what I sell and how we can be effective and most helpful for the accounts we're researching. Layered on top of that is an alerts engine, which will look across the most relevant pieces of research in real time and alert me when those pieces of relevant research pop up within my accounts. This is much richer than binary signals like whether someone was on my website or whether somebody raised money, and much more nuanced and tailored to align with an enterprise sales cycle. And so each of these accounts are being monitored and being followed and tracked by ChatAE, and when those pieces of relevant research pop up, we alert the users, and they can then take value-based action in a much more well-informed, well-researched point of view type of way, whether they're trying to break into those accounts or have the most successful meeting and sales cycle possible. Whenever a user gets into ChatAE for the first time, they have a profile section where they just have to fill out a little bit of information about where they work. In this case, we're using the example of one of our customers from Tableau at Salesforce and using that as a demo guide here. And so the research agent knows information based on all of the access to sources we have and based on the living knowledge graph that we are building for each account being researched. And so it will provide some context on things like the products and services being sold, personas they're selling to, challenges solving for customers, and positive business outcomes and value that we provide for customers. And as a user, I could come in and add more nuanced context here if I want. And when we're working with teams, we can enrich all of this information on our back end even further by either connecting into call recordings, transcripts, sales playbooks, Google Drive folders, SharePoint, you name it. As a user, when I need to come in and actually research my given accounts, I have a few different options, but the most common flow is for me to just share all of my accounts from my territory, or at least the top accounts. And then from there, I can actually use ChatAE to pull out the research that's most relevant to me. And so by default, there will be a number of things at a company and individual prospect level that we will provide for our users, like what the company does, how they make money in their business model, financial information, recent news, podcast information, and you name it. In addition to that, across all of our sources, as a user, I can create any sort of custom query that is most relevant to me. So if I take the example of that user, our customer from Tableau, they want to know every time an enterprise data strategy is articulated within their accounts. And so I can create a custom query for their data strategy. I can say, look up their enterprise data strategy at company here. And then that becomes a query that I can attach to every one of my accounts going forward, and also get alerts on. So I can build all of the real-time alerts on each of these custom queries that are most relevant. And so in this case, I'll select a few custom queries that include things like AI investments, partnerships, executive quotes about AI, job postings that highlight specific technologies that are most relevant to us. All of those are things the ChatAE's research agent can query off of, and that the alerts engine can provide alerting in real time off of. And so I'll map these things real quickly here, and then I'll move on to actually diving into some of the accounts. And so as I finish going through this, we'll see it'll model out what all of those queries will look like within my accounts. I'll kick off the research job, and then I'll dive back into some of these accounts more specifically. And so we can see again at both a account and prospect level some of the information that I'm now able to get nuanced, deep, rich context into. And we also see some of those custom queries that I created here. Now I'm pulling all of the executive quotes on AI. I can then use this information to tailor my outreach, create value-based messaging, or ultimately prep more successfully for a call, and monitor in real time for things that might be relevant for the sales process. All of those alerts will be tracked account by account on those custom triggers that are most relevant to me. And so with ChatAE, I can combine both the relevancy of the research, timeliness of the alerts to craft the most value-based messaging and outreach and touch points and sales cycle possible. If I need to go deeper, I at any point can use the research agent and ask questions to analyze the research or go deeper or actually help me prep and create those value-based touch points, or just redirect the research agent in other places. As users conduct research into accounts and feed internal information into ChatAE with their queries and with other information that they are adding into the system, we are building living knowledge graphs for each account. And what that means is that in addition to all of the external sources we are plugging into, things like third-party data sets that allow us to get at hard-to-get-at data from sources like LinkedIn, social media, etc., and, of course, public data, users also have access to a unique data set created from those living knowledge graphs on behalf of ChatAE. This produces a bit of a crowdsource effect across all of our users' interactions with the knowledge graph. And so as users come into the system and are doing research, they have access to that knowledge graph that ChatAE has created for them on each of those accounts. That gives us a separator at a data source perspective, because in addition to public data, there's a whole host of information that the knowledge graph might capture that public data would not provide in visibility into. And so I can ask it to create things like for a firm's C-suite. And so using the external sources and the living knowledge graphs for each account from all of the data users are adding in or queries they're running, we can on the fly access that data and update our research accordingly. For users, this dramatically cuts down the time it takes to actually dive in and do proper deep dives on each of their accounts. But again, like with everything else in ChatAE, allows them to be hyper tailored and custom towards what is most relevant for each of their accounts, and based on how they help and based on how they can connect with them.